with it.
And I love what you just said there. You went from teaching classes to now reaching the masses. And so, my next question is, how did the concept, if you can, matter of fact, go into the background of your tennis coaching, of how you developed that to even get to the thought process in the first place.
Okay, so I'm I'm a twin. I'm a twin. I got a twin brother, identical twin brother named Marvin. I'm the oldest by 20 minutes, and then I have an older sister, a couple of years older. So it's three of us in the family. My mother raised us. My father passed when I was 4, so my mother was a single parent, and she raised the three of us. And so me and my brother, we were real competitive, always into sports and what have you. So I'm in high school and I'm playing football, I'm swimming. My brother's playing baseball and swimming and playing football. And then one day, one of my football buddies, he saw a sign, a flyer up talking about boys tennis, and he said, "Foreman, man, let's go beat up on some sissy boys." I'm like, "What? Yeah, let's go play some tennis, man. They got tennis tryouts. Let's go beat up on some sissy boys." And I'm like, "Man, Dungeon, I don't want to beat up on those sissy boys." But guess what? He talked me into it. And so the next day I actually went out for the tennis tryouts. And so I made the tennis team. I made the tennis team, and
Okay.
it was fun. It was different. I realized it was a challenging sport that I hadn't played before. And another thing that I liked about it was it was an individual sport. So I had to take responsibility for the success or the failure that I was having on the tennis court. Whereas on football, often at that age, sometime if we didn't do well, we would blame our failures on other people on the team, right? So I kind of
Exactly.
took to the tennis. So I really liked the tennis. However, when I went to college, I went to a small college up in Michigan, and I went to play football initially, but I wasn't getting along with the football coach. But guess what? They had tennis. And so I tried out for the tennis team. I made the tennis team, and tennis got me through college. So fast forward, after I graduated from college, I moved to California, and my degree was in sociology. So I worked for the San Diego Urban League, doing some community service work. And
Okay.
then after that, I was there for 5 years, and I returned to Detroit. So now get this: after I returned to Detroit, there was a point in time in my life where I was working this type of job and working that type of job. But guess what? I was introduced to a workshop called "You Can Have It All," Mike. The title of the workshop was "You Can Have It All,"
You can have it all.
and it was a money mastery workshop. And so anyway, in this workshop, the guy who facilitated it, he said something that really stuck to me. He said that we all were created with a purpose, right? We all were created with a purpose. And one way to find out what our purpose was for us to get in touch with doing what we truly love to do. And he said it had nothing to do with money, power, position. It's just get in touch with something that truly moves and inspires you to do, something that you would be willing to do without the money, without the power, without the prestige. And so at that point in time, I was sewing seats, I was an artist, I was drawing, I was teaching tennis. And so I was asking myself, oh, what do I really love to do? What do I really love to do? And I chose tennis. I said I really enjoyed teaching tennis. It was something I loved to do. Didn't know how I could make money doing it, but it was something that I loved to do. I picked it, and before you know it, I'm teaching tennis small time, and then before you know it, I'm teaching tennis big time, and then I ended up teaching tennis for the next 25, 30 years.
Mm.
So that's how I got into the tennis, getting in touch with doing what I truly love to do.
And once you get in touch doing
Hmm.
what you love to do,
Hmm.
at what point in time did you develop the concept of best self living?
Whoa, that was a long time after. Long time after. Best self living actually came after I was laid off. But now, the philosophy of living a wonderful life and a happy life, that started way back when I was about 10 or 11 year old, Mike. 10 or 11 years old.
Mm.
Okay,
So
I
what you
grew up. Go ahead.
so what you're saying pretty much what you did as a child, the ideas and seeds that was planted as a child is
Yes.
what was actually birthed out at you many
Yeah,
years later, decades later.
that's exactly what I'm saying. That's
And that's
exactly what I'm saying. I got
and
on a path, and see, and
yes.
that's something that I try and communicate with people. Once I got on that path, see, when you have a dream, right? When you have a dream, nothing like having a dream. And when you're motivated and you're inspired to pursue that dream and have that dream come true, you'll do just about any and everything to make it happen. And so at the young age of 10 or 11, I grew up, like I said, I grew up on the east side of Detroit in a low income housing project. And I was exposed to a lot of different things, Mike, a lot of different things. And one thing that kind of triggered me and set me off was down the street, about 4 or 5 houses from where we stayed, there was a young couple, and they had about 3 or 4 kids. And the lady, I thought she was just the most beautiful lady in the world. You know, I'm 10 years old, she's in her 20s, but I just thought she was the most beautiful lady in the world. And her and her husband were having problems. They were having problems, and abuse was taking place in that household. And so much so that one day I remember coming home, and police and everything were down there, and coming to find out, the guy had murdered his wife. And it just took me aback. I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to do, but I knew it wasn't, I wasn't happy with it. And then there were other things in the neighborhood. You know, I was an inquisitive young fella at the age of 10 or 11. And I think it happened because, like I said, my father had passed when I was 4. My mother raised us as a single mother. And there was a friend of the family who one day told me that I needed to be the man of the house. So I'm at 10 years old, 11 years old, and this grown man tells me I need to be the man of the house. And so there I am trying to figure out how to be the man of, of the house. And so I found myself kind of thinking differently than the typical 10-year-old or 11-year-old. So anyway, I remember, share this story. I remember going around the neighborhood just asking people, what would it take for you to be happy? What would it take for you to be happy? And the common response that I got was, if I had $1 million, I'd be happy. If I had $1 million, I'd be happy. And I said to myself, well, if we had $1 million, I'd be happy too. But then the next, but then the next question that came out of me was, well, what if we never have $1 million? Can we still be happy? And so from that day forward, I found myself looking for this recipe for happiness, Mike, this recipe for happiness. And that's what I wanted to find. And that's what I sought out to find. And then because it was something that was a part of me all those years, ultimately, best self living is that recipe that I came up with some 35, 40 years later.